my name is Cecilia Dobbs-Walton. I'm the Public Affairs Specialist for the City of Biloxi. I'm here to deliver today's Be Prepared report. This is being recorded on Monday, July the 20th, 2020 at 3:45 in the afternoon. Today, the Mississippi State Department of Health reports a total of 43,889 cases of the coronavirus statewide and 1,359 deaths statewide. In the past 24 hours, 1,051 new cases were identified and 3,060 cases were reported since Friday, which is when the city's last video update was recorded. Also, in the past 24 hours, 3 deaths were reported statewide and 27 deaths were reported since Friday. This chart shows the total number of positive cases statewide since the crisis began. This chart shows the 14-day track on cases statewide. In Harrison County, the State Department of Health reports we've seen 69 positive tests of the coronavirus in the past 24 hours, making the countywide total 1,456. This chart shows the Harrison County running 14-day average. As you can see, cases of the coronavirus continue to be seen and are increasing in most areas of the state, including Harrison County. Governor Reeves today extended his executive order calling for masks to be worn while in public until August the 3rd at 8 a.m. Governor Reeves also mentioned today in his press conference that people need to realize that they are not invincible and that hospitals are seeing more cases. In fact, some coast hospitals are seeing their highest number of COVID positives they've seen. Mayor Gillich continues to ask citizens and visitors to mask up. In fact, today masks were put up on the Biloxi's high-profile landmark, the Biloxi Lighthouse. The masks on the lighthouse are to remind the public to mask up Biloxi. Please remember to do your part to help stop the spread of this virus. Now to talk about what the Biloxi Public Schools system is doing to help stop the spread and some other topics is Vincent Krill and Marcus Boudreaux.
Joining me now is Marcus Boudreaux, the Superintendent of Biloxi Public Schools. You took over in January?
That's correct.
Well, how has your tenure been as the Superintendent of Biloxi Public Schools?
Very busy. I joined at just the right time to come into a global pandemic. So.
Well, you had some insight because you were at Biloxi High School as the principal,
Correct.
But what has been the biggest challenge for you right now as you're registering students?
I mean, obviously right now COVID-19 is our biggest challenge in trying to balance public health, at the same time trying to balance the needs that the community has for a school to be open. And that's been tough. We understand that there's a portion of the community that needs us to be open and they need to be able to send children to school so that they can continue working. And at the same time, there are people with true fears for going back to school. So that's why we opened up a distance learning option for the coming school year so that those that were uncomfortable returning, they'd have the opportunity to attend school at home in a safer environment and they don't have to make that tough decision.
Now, there was some distance learning done before the last school season ended, right? School year.
That's correct.
How'd that go?
We were very successful with distance learning. We're going to be even more successful this coming school year. As you can imagine, whenever you are distance learning at the end of the school year in March, the majority of the curriculum's already been taught. But when you're coming in August, you've got brand new material, things kids don't know. You're teaching new concepts, new standards, new skills. So it's going to be a much more ramped up distance learning at home. In this distance learning environment, our kids are going to interact online, one-to-one, or not one-to-one, excuse me, but interact directly with the Biloxi Public Schools teachers. So they'll have classes of 25 to 30 kids in a distance learning classroom, and they'll be able to communicate and teach lessons with the kids.
Biloxi Public Schools has always been on the cutting edge of technology, and that's coming in handy now,
Absolutely. We were in great shape at the end of last year. We were already one-to-one grades 6 through 12. We have since purchased 3,000 Chromebooks, so we'll be a completely one-to-one school district. Not quite by the start of the school year, because as you can imagine, when we ordered our 3,000 Chromebooks, everybody in America was ordering them as well. Mm-hmm. So there is a bit of a back order, but we do have an order in to make ourselves completely one-to-one as soon as those arrive.
Registration is going on right now. We're recording this on July 20th, so what do parents need to know right now?
Parents, if you have not registered, the deadline to do so is July 31st to be able to start the first day of school, which is August the 5th. However, I encourage parents to at least register by July the 24th, which is at the end of this week, so that you can secure your child's position in scheduling.
We had 6,300 students last year in Biloxi Public Schools. What do you see now? What do you think?
Right now, we still are waiting for everybody to register, so we're not seeing those numbers registered at this time. We're still waiting on probably a third of the student population.
Is that normally about where you would be?
It is pretty normal, but usually we're able to put that big hit with the person-to-person registration, and we don't have that option this year. So we're still encouraging parents to get out, finish registration process, make sure they get everything done so that their child will get the schedule that they desire. And it'll help us with the planning aspect.
That's always. I got a feeling you've seen enough unknowns already.
Absolutely. Currently, we have about 1,500 students signed up for distance learning. So about 25% of our student population will be learning from home.
How has this been for you in this job?
I mean, it's a dream job, but it's definitely been a challenge. Like I said, I feel like I've just been hit with one challenge after another stepping in, but you know what? That's what I signed up for.
I think you're making Biloxi very proud. I really do. If someone wanted to contact you, what is your email address?
My first name dot last name at biloxischools.net. That's for every staff member of Biloxi Schools.
marcus.boudreaux.
That's correct.
At biloxischools.net. And if people want to find out any more about Biloxi Public Schools, they can either go to any one of the Facebooks you have, Facebook pages, or your website.
We have a website, we have Facebook, we have Twitter. We're all over social media.
biloxischools.net. Check it out, please. And Marcus, thank you again very much.
Not a problem. Thank you, Vincent.
Good luck this year.
Same to you.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple more things. Memorial Hospital will host a drive-up COVID-19 screening and testing for those who have COVID or flu-like symptoms. The drive-up clinic will be on Thursday from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the parking lot of the Biloxi Civic Center located off Howard Avenue. Remember to wear a face mask and stay in your vehicle. For more information, you may call the COVID-19 hotline at 228-867-5000. Lane closures on US 90 south of the Biloxi Cemetery will continue through Friday. So when traveling in that area, which is just east of the Biloxi Lighthouse, use caution. And finally, the 5th annual immunization fair continues its drive-through event on Friday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Coastal Family Health Clinic at 735 Division Street. The drive-through is for new and returning students to the Biloxi school systems. For more information, call Susan Hunt, 228-297-6808. That's the report for today. Please remember to mask up Biloxi. We'll see you again on Friday. We leave you today with a little history lesson about the masked icon, the Biloxi Lighthouse.
It is one of the oldest surviving lighthouses on the entire Gulf Coast of the United States. Over the course of 150 years, it has witnessed the departure of tens of thousands of sailing vessels and has beamed a beacon of welcome to its shores for tens of thousands more. It has weathered the effects of more than a dozen major hurricanes, and while it bears a few scars from its encounters with the ravages of Mother Nature, it still lights the night, every night, with the flashing signal that spells Biloxi. This is Mary Ann Mobley, and I would like to tell you about a building that has a very special place in my heart. I was born in Biloxi, but the effects of storms and progress have changed much of what I recall about my birthplace. Whenever I return here, though, the Biloxi Lighthouse is here to remind me that I have come home. Let me share with you some of the reasons why. The Biloxi Lighthouse was built in 1848 to aid ships in navigating the Mississippi Sound, which was then the primary entrance to America's busiest seaport, the Port of New Orleans. Coastal charts of the Mississippi Sound indicated the unique signatures or identifying characteristic of each lighthouse, so that one could be distinguished from another during both daytime and night. The white color of the Biloxi Lighthouse was its day mark, and the light shined as a continuous beacon for its night mark. At one time, the lighthouse was painted black with tar as a waterproofing agent, but boat captains complained about not being able to see the dark color against the trees on the shore, so the lighthouse was changed soon back to white. The only other alteration since then occurred when the light was electrified. Its night mark was then changed to the signal we see today, flashing 3 seconds on, followed by 1 second of dark before repeating the signal. Seen from the water, this flashing pattern means but one thing, and that is Biloxi. As the beacon of welcome to this small coastal community, the lighthouse revealed the narrow channel leading from the Sound due north to the city's small harbor on the front beach. This shallow and tricky route was critical for packets and steamboats to ship and deliver the goods and services that allowed the community to thrive. Along with the freight came the daily shipments of the U.S. mail, but even more important cargo was the increasing number of passengers. As early as the 1830s, Biloxi had gained a reputation as a summer retreat for the prosperous families of New Orleans, who escaped the steamy streets of the city in the summer and flocked to the cooler breezes of the Gulf Coast. By the time the lighthouse was built, Biloxi was already a bustling summer resort. The design of the Biloxi Lighthouse called for a structural system of cast iron plating with an inner lining of brick to lend the structure strength and stability. Only one cast iron lighthouse had been built in America, and some people thought the plan to use this relatively new material was risky. The $12,000 contract for its construction was awarded to the foundry of Murray and Hazelhurst of Baltimore, Maryland, which at the time was one of the leading high-tech firms in America. We have to remember, though, that in 1848, high-tech did not mean building computers or satellites. Instead, Murray and Hazelhurst built the finest steam engines to power railroad locomotives, factories, and ships. All of the gently tapered cast iron plates for the lighthouse had to be engineered precisely so that they would fit together and create a strong building. The care taken to accomplish this task was successful. Once the work began, construction of the lighthouse and its adjacent cottage for its lighthouse keeper was completed in only 6 weeks. The light at Biloxi began to shine in May of 1848. Between then and the time that the lighthouse was automated in 1939, only 6 people are known to have held the title of Keeper of the Biloxi Lighthouse. The most important contributions over this period were made by 3 remarkable women who maintained the light for 74 of the light's 91 years of manned service. These women were Mrs. Mary Reynolds, Marie Youngins, and her daughter Miranda Youngins. All 3 were held in the highest esteem by the people of their community because they performed a difficult job, a job that was vital to the success of the local community. Marie Youngins took over the job of lighthouse keeper in 1867, following the death of her husband, and the 52-year span of her career was one of the longest tenures in the history of the U.S. Lighthouse Service. She might have even served longer, but she was forced to retire at age 77. The duties of the lighthouse keeper were by no means easy for anyone, let alone women like Mary Reynolds and Marie Youngins, both widows with young children to raise. The routine of climbing the tower 3 or 4 times every 24 hours to tend the light would have been difficult under any circumstances, especially in the dark of the night. But imagine how much more difficult the job would have been in the oppressive heat and humidity of the average summer day. Or worse, in a tropical storm or hurricane. During the storms, the keeper was expected to tend the light day and night as usual and to keep it burning until the storm had passed. Sometimes storms lasted for several days. Imagine how frightening it must have been, climbing the stairs of the lighthouse during one of these severe storms, hearing the deafening howl of the wind and the groans and crashes of wharves and boats as they were smashed by the waves. Just imagine having the base of the lighthouse filled with water from the storm surge, all the while wondering if your children were safe nearby. And once a storm had passed, imagine opening the door at the base of the lighthouse and looking out upon the desolation wreaked upon your community. History records the dates and names of more than 24 hurricanes that bedeviled the Gulf Coast at Biloxi, including some of the most deadly and most costly storms of all time, such as the hurricanes of 1906, 1947, and Hurricane Camille in 1969. Before the 1920s, the Biloxi Lighthouse was located on the water's edge, and waves and storm surges often collapsed the breakwater, protecting the structure's foundations. Beginning as early as 1854, there were several attempts to protect the lighthouse with various forms of breakwaters, but none were successful. We are lucky that the lighthouse survived, because in September 1860, the storm surge from a hurricane was strong enough to undermine its foundations. The damage was so great that the structure tipped some 2 feet off a vertical, making the lighthouse resemble the Leaning Tower of Pisa. The tilt was corrected in 1866 by excavating some of the sand under the foundation and letting gravity put the structure back to right. But the threat of a similar problem continued until a concrete breakwater was built in front of the lighthouse in 1924. Hurricanes and tropical storms are dramatic events for just about every coastal area, and most any Biloxi resident will tell you that the sight of the lighthouse, still standing after a storm, is a reassuring symbol of survival. But the lighthouse also plays a significant role in the everyday lives of its community. Throughout its history, and even with today's sophisticated radar and satellite navigation technology, every fisherman or sailor who has ever plied the Mississippi Sound has found the light to be a sign of a safe passage home. The same sentiment has been expressed by airmen returning to Keesler Air Force Base here in Biloxi, because the lighthouse aligns with the approach to the main runway of Keesler Field. The connection between the land and the sea is an integral part of Biloxi's culture, and the lighthouse bridges these two worlds. As a result, the lighthouse has become a magnet for all manner of community activity. It watches over community celebrations like the annual Mardi Gras parade and the blessing of the shrimp fleet. The community dresses the lighthouse to express its feelings, whether in honor of a holiday, as an expression of hope in times of turmoil, or as a memorial in times of sorrow. The Biloxi Lighthouse is so important to us that when the U.S. Coast Guard decommissioned it, taking it out of service in 1967, the city of Biloxi immediately stepped in and received the transfer of the lighthouse in 1968. It has been operated ever since as what is formerly known as a private aid to navigation, continuing to guide recreational boats and fishing vessels to safe harbor. Today, the lighthouse is an inseparable part of our community's identity, and it is beloved by us all. While the light may be seen by mariners as only one of many landmarks along the Sound, to me and to all the citizens of Biloxi, it is a beacon of welcome home.